morning to all of you. I've got some important news, and that is that I'm in love. Not kind of in love, but total and full love. Actually, it started out quite innocently, as of course it always does. Before I graduated from high school, I met a wonderful girl while working at a summer fair. We were supposed to be guarding a fence so people don't jump over and get in free. Well, I had one section of the fence and she had another section, but it was the most boring job I've ever had. So, to be quite honest, instead of guarding the fence and watching the fence, we spent most of the day talking to each other. And we talked about random things. Things like life, school, careers, friends, hobbies, and yes, about love. I told her I was thinking of becoming a priest, and of course, the question of marriage came up. "You're not thinking of getting married?" she asked. And I responded, "I want to dedicate my entire life to God and serve the church in celibacy." The confusion level, as you can imagine, went right through the roof as she asked me, "Well, what if you fall in love?" I paused for a few seconds and I didn't have an answer. But she continued, "If you do fall in love, there's going to be a big problem." Well, for 30 years since that conversation, I frequently thought of that question and of that discussion. What if you fall in love? I don't remember this wonderful girl's name, and I never asked her for her phone number, believe it or not. But I wish I could tell her today, I am in love, and it is actually not a problem. In 1989, I graduated from high school and entered the seminary to pray and to discern a vocation to the priesthood. And the word love, believe it or not, kept on coming up, and it became a very important word, and a word that came up in different ways in my studies and in my readings. And never was the question of love seen or presented as a problem. In particular, in 1990, I attended a talk by Jean Vanier, who passed away this year. He's a very famous author. He's written over 30 books on religion and worked his entire life with people with disabilities. Among the honors that he's received were the Companions of the Order of Canada, the French Legion of Honor, the Parliamentary Freedom Award, and the most prestigious religious award ever given, and that is the Templeton Prize. From 1964, he's spent his entire life establishing communities called l'Arche, or the Ark, and Faith and Light, which are homes, or rather communities, for men and women with disabilities, giving them the honor and dignity of living in a family, in a house, and teaching them how to be independent. During that talk, a woman asked him, "What if you love and it hurts?" And he answered, "Well, you need to love properly so it doesn't hurt." And that answer as well has rung in my ears. And yes, in fact, when you love a lot, sometimes it does hurt, because commitments hurt, and commitments require responsibility. 2 days ago, on October 4th, was my 21st anniversary as a priest. Love, more than any other word, is the most important word along this wonderful journey. I entered the seminary at 18, started theology at 22, was ordained a subdeacon at 23, a deacon at 26, and a priest at 27. 21 wonderful years, with many joys and, as you can imagine, a few challenges. But 21 years of what? Of love. 21 years of love. Of experiencing, first and foremost, God's love. Someone asked me yesterday, what is the one thing you've learned? I said, actually, two things. One is, I've learned that there's always more to learn. And number two, I learned that God is always with us. God is always with us. Sure, I've learned a few other things, but I think those are two of the greatest things that I've learned. And that is the story of love. To experience God's love and to share that love with people around you, and also to be present with God as He is trying to communicate to you. Often, marriage is called the sacrament of love. But in fact, the human vocation is the sacrament of love. We were made to know that we are loved by God. If there's only one thing you need to know before you leave this world, is that God loves you. If that's all you know, that is all that's important. Then you have learned everything you need to know. That God loves you. That's the heart of the human vocation. But it doesn't stop it there. We need to know that God loves us in order to know that we live that love or feel that love or are in that love every day of our life. And we experience that in order to share that love with others. An element of love, of course, is a feeling. But it's only real love if it is much more than a feeling and is expressed in very real ways. Gary Chapman wrote a great book called The 5 Love Languages, and that is also one of the great books that you should read. And he speaks how love is expressed in a variety of ways. And love is not just a feeling. Love is an expression of that feeling in very concrete ways. Even in relationships, friendship and respect need to precede that commitment of love. I always tell people, don't fall in love. Be in love. It's a being. It's out of your being. It's not an accidental trip on a banana where you break your head. Right? We'll find out in a few years. Don't just fall in love. Be in love. Even before you meet someone, have that feeling of love that you want to share with others. Otherwise, it's a grabbing at emotions and an attachment to that emotion of feeling good, but it's actually not connected to anything real. Love is an extension of who you are, not just the feeling of who you are with. Ultimately, if you are not in love before you meet someone, you actually can't be in love with that someone. Because love is who you are and not what you do. In the fuller picture of things, love is a full commitment. Without commitment, there cannot be love. Love is a full commitment, and it is also faithfulness to the joys and difficulties that comes with that commitment. And that's why the sacrament of marriage is called the sacrament of love only when the couple come to church and declare their love and commitment to each other for the rest of their life. Not for a day, not for a week, not for a month, but for the rest of life. Love is ultimately a faithfulness to that commitment that is made. And that is why every vocation, whether it is marriage or the priesthood, needs to have love at its center. We all need to be in love. A few years ago, a friend of mine who's a priest asked a seminarian, he asked him, "Why are you studying to be a priest?" And the seminarian told him, "I'll get back to you on that one." And after a while, he told him, "Because I am in love." That is such a counterintuitive thing to think of when you are studying to be a priest. But that is really the heart of the matter. There's a very important passage in the Gospel of Luke towards the end. After Jesus' resurrection, he's walking with 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus. And they first don't recognize him, but they invite him in for a meal. And after he leaves, they say to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures?" That is the experience of love that God calls us into. The burning hearts for God, and that burning heart that extends to those around us. So, don't be shocked if I tell you I'm in love. Rather, be shocked if I tell you I am not in love. Yes, I'm in love. I'm in love with God and trying to be in love with him a little more. I'm in love with life and also trying to be in love with life a little more. I'm in love with what I'm doing and trying to love it a little more. Love is what we are doing, but also growing in that love for what we are doing and who we are. And yes, I'm in love with you. And with all my imperfections, I'm trying to love God, love life, and love all of you even more. So let's keep being in love.